This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, June the 14th, 2022, episode 378. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We've actually got some survival video game news this week. My name is Nick Craig. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to check me out, you can visit my website, the new and improved nickcraig.com, or visit our website, infectionpodcast.com. Of course, I can't be on this voyage alone. Joining me as he does each and every week from looks like a complete city societal collapse in your background there, Brian. Welcome to America in 2022, Brian.
Yes,
with an eye
things have been
Biden's
rough. A lot of California is moving in. I don't know what happened here. It's just falling apart.
Welcome to Biden's America. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing very well. If you want to find me, you can find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, most of them. But of course, if you want to go to Twitter, it's got to be Boise Computer. If you want to go to my blog, that's biteoftech.com. And where I would encourage you to go is to our website, infectionpodcast.com. And if you go there, on the right-hand side, we have join our server on Discord. It's a free app, totally easy to use, web-based, mobile, desktop, whatever you want to use on there. And it's where we communicate. If there's a topic maybe that we're missing, you think we should be covering, throw a link to it in the news channel. If you want to play some ARK, we've got 10 servers going right now, possibly 11 soon here, we'll see, and a lot going on. So if you want to check out the video forms of the show, you can do that through Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive, and then the audio forms to the lower right-hand side. So if you are trying to listen live, you have to do that through a video link. If you want to do the actual podcast version, that is recorded and upload after the fact. But if you do that, there will be show notes you can follow while you listen. So if you go to the particular episode and click those, there's a video player, audio player, and all the links that we refer to throughout the episode. So a lot of ways that you can maybe catch a video or check out an article that we're referring to so that you can research it yourself. If you want to support us, there's support up top or infectionpodcast.com/support, where there's Prime Gaming subs, Humble Bundle, all kinds of different things that you can do to help support the show. And we thank you to everyone that has done that up to this point. So there's lots.
Yes, sir.
Lots of money sitting in an account ready to go to a convention or do something with.
Yes. Brian, would you just turn your mic down just a tad? You're a little hot there.
Yeah.
I want to thank our friend Saul Goodman, who hit us up with the resubscription 45 seconds after we finished the recording last Tuesday. So Saul, thank you very much. He said, Raid Shadow Legends has made a deposit to your account. That was his message on Twitch. So Saul, thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. Well, Brian, you mentioned, I'm going to take over, you mentioned ARK and servers for ARK, and it has been, it's been a hot minute since we've discussed ARK, our days of discussing the show notes and everything week in and week out, but it now is official. ARK 2 is a thing, and it is going to be out in 2023. There is a trailer for it. Do you want to discuss anything before we roll into the trailer, I guess?
Okay, so it will be released on PC and Xbox, and it's going to be a part of the Game Pass. So
really?
So from what I've seen, and we'll be talking, there's some things we'll be discussing later that show this to confirm it, but from what I remember from going through earlier, this is included in the Game Pass. So that'll be something pretty cool because right when it comes out, you'll be able to jump on and start playing, and it'll supposedly have all the features of the original ARK. So let's go ahead and play a video, because this is Unreal Engine 5. This is one of the first things that really showed Unreal Engine 5 before their big announcements and releasing and all this. Studio Wildcard had been developing this, and Vin Diesel, right? Is this Vin Diesel?
It is Vin Diesel, yeah.
Vin Diesel. I guess he loves this game, so he was a part of it and did a big push. So I'm assuming he's doing more of the artistic style to make it have a story.
I can't imagine.
I mean,
I can't imagine he's in there doing blueprints, Brian. If I was a gambling man, I would say that's not what Vin Diesel is doing. So,
but what has ARK lacked up to this point?
A story,
a real story that tied it all together. There's lots of hints at a story. They almost would tell a story, but then it seems like they never quite told it. and they'd make it so spread out that you couldn't quite piece it all together. Hopefully here, this is someone who said, hey, why don't you guys turn this into something where you're actually telling a story so that there's something that people can get behind and you can make 2s, 3s, and 4s of.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's go and play this so we can see the graphics, because that's what really I'm looking forward to, because that was one thing that the original ARK really did, I think, was kind of show graphics and push the limits on graphics that we hadn't really seen on a PC.
Gotcha. Let's take a look.
My dad tells stories of a terrible war that happened across the sky. Heroes fought and died to give us a chance to start over. All that I know from their Earth are the creatures they sent along with us. And here on Arat, every day is a fight to survive. But if anyone can tame this new world, we can.
All right, what do we think?
I mean, I like the idea that they're telling a story. They're obviously continuing after, because if you look, they showed the emblems. I don't remember what they call them now, but the little glass things in their arms that would glow and all that.
Yeah, what the hell were those called?
A dodo. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was called. But
are they called artifacts?
No, I thought those were things that drop. But
oh yeah, dodo's eating one.
Pick them up off the ground whenever you would die. You can see the dodo is sitting there eating one. So that's an old dead player.
Yeah, well, some guy on a beach with a rock in his hand and a little piece of string on to cover up his genitals, and now he's washed up and a dodo's eating the little cross thing there.
And I'm hoping that this, if you look at their page, so I looked at their Steam page and kind of saw the things that they're promising in ARK 2. Cross-platform modding, that's something that it's not an Epic yet, but I think maybe they have, I don't know if they have the mods actually in ARK for console that can play on a PC server.
So
I don't know that happens.
That's always been a tough issue. And you know who's actually led the charge on that is been Bethesda. That was one of their big things. Yeah. And I know that Fallout 76 was an unmitigated disaster, but it did have the that cross support. I think Skyrim, maybe. I think Skyrim's got some of that cross-platform support. But see, the way that they've done it is, I'm trying to remember. Let me. I'm not.
They turned it into their own little store.
Well, that's what I wanted to say.
Like,
so how did
the other ones?
How did ARK work? How did mods work on ARK? I don't think I ever installed any mod. Now, of course, there were server-side mods that would download onto your computer. Could you do individual game mods too?
Yeah. So what you do is you go to the workshop in Steam, and then you subscribe to whatever mods. Now that would allow you to play them locally. But as a server manager, what you do is you enable mods on the server. When the person tries to connect to it, if they they can disable this feature, but it'll start downloading all of the mods from Steam that I need to use for that server. Well, it comes to be a problem when you want to log into, for instance, our servers. I had to disable. They have crossplay on it, but I disabled it because we can run some mods, and Epic doesn't have their mod thing finished yet in their launcher, so there are no mods for anybody who's playing through the Epic store. But then you have mods maybe that are for console. If that developer didn't develop them for the console, they need to make their modding system so universal that it works between console, PC, everywhere. It's all the same language, all the same things, API that needs to talk to.
So what Bethesda did, and this is what Wildcard is going to have to do with this, is they're going to have to create their mod platform like Bethesda did. Like, 'cause for example, looking at this picture, if I can pull it up, please. So looking at like a picture like this, I can zoom in on. This is the I believe this is the Skyrim
yeah.
mod library, but it's handled in game, right? Because you're talking like
it looks the same on PC and console.
Well, it's not that it even looks the same. It's that all of the mods are equally available, which does create some problems because obviously not every single mod that you do on PC is going to work on a console, and that's fine. They've got, if you're a developer and you just want it to be on PC, that's not a problem. But they're going to have some sort of integrated mod system. If the game is on Steam, it's also on Epic, it's also going to be on Xbox, and if you mentioned, Brian, Game Pass, if it's available for streaming, well, that's the only way, because you don't physically have a copy of the game that you're running. So it's going to have to be like this, which is, I think,
that'd be interesting to see how they do that with the streaming, because usually when you're doing Game Pass and you're streaming something, I don't know how they handle doing mods. Do they allow you to actually install a mod on a streamed one?
Well, that's the thing is you're not technically. It's not technically going to be installed if it has to go through this marketplace. It's gonna. I mean, yes and no.
It has to download it.
Yeah, you're right. It does have to download it. I don't know. That's a great question. Maybe this game won't be available for streaming. I don't know. Just because it's on Game Pass doesn't mean it's,
or at least not with
available.
mods on streaming. It might be that mods are disabled on the streaming version.
So they say that for the cross-platform mod, they say it's fully stackable. User-created mods for new creatures, items, gameplay features, and maps are now distributed across all platforms, along with support modding unofficial servers, which support modded unofficial servers. So, I mean, unofficial servers have always supported modding, so I'm not sure exactly what that means.
But listen, support for modded unofficial servers. We are a modded unofficial server, and right now Epic can't play on ours.
Oh, I see. So because you're an unofficial server, I see. Okay, so that makes sense.
But they don't have support on all platforms right now to install mods everywhere. So this is promising that on everything it's going to release to, the modding system will be set.
Yeah. Now, arguably the only controversial thing in here, and I'm sure there'll be more, this trailer only dropped like a day ago, is right here, Brian. Best in class third-person only gameplay. And this has got a lot of people frustrated that played, ARK enthusiasts that really enjoyed first-person play, which I'm trying to think, when I played ARK, I don't think many people played ARK first-person. I obviously it's anecdotal. I always played it in third person because you're always trying to see around you. But this has got a lot of people frustrated. But now say this, and Orlug Gaming says, I prefer first person in every game. I guess the good news is if they support modding, Brian, first person mod, right? Problem solved, presumably.
Camera's right here. Here we go. That's all.
I assume if it truly has this fully stackable mod interface, it will likely support something like that. Falcon says, I played third person. I think Brian and I did as well, but I don't know why they would restrict it to that. Now, I think I agree. I'm not sure why they restricted it to that, but what I will say is that when you're building a game, and especially when you're dealing with a universe that's being created, you might lose out on some pretty significant things by playing in first person. And maybe they've just determined that you don't get the full feature of the game with just playing in first person. I agree they shouldn't restrict it, but I guess that's part of maybe how they just want the game to run. They want it to play in third person, the same way that a first person shooter, Call of Duty, you can only play in first person. So maybe it's something like that. I don't know.
From reading the things after that they've put, like for instance, mantling, free climbing, parkour, sliding, and swinging, it's possible that some of those, they just don't look right. When you're doing free climbing, if they've got the camera in front of your face, you're staring at a wall.
Well, yeah.
There's got to be a point where they got to swing back. It can't be a first person only and really be able to handle some of the mechanics that I think they're trying to do. But why lock it? Allow people to do first person, and when you go into one of those things that you kind of need a third person perspective to do it, then kick the camera back. I mean, it's really easy to do it on Unreal. There's no reason why they couldn't. I have a tutorial on it if they want to go look at it on my YouTube video.
So
it's not that hard.
They put this is the looking back at their Steam page. 1, 2, 3. This is the third bullet point on here, so it's very high up on their list of things.
They
which
consider that important.
they consider it important. They're not trying to bury it or hide it or obfuscate what it is. It's very high up there, and they have. This is not going to change. They have set this is a high enough priority for them. They put it as their third bullet point. It's going to stay. Hopefully for the first person folks, a mod will be able to do what you want potentially. But I don't think
maybe the next bullet point is possibly the reason why they want third person as well. Because if you
what
look
is
at
that?
The combat system that they're promising, it's a target lock type of system, more like Souls, Dark Souls. So this is one where I think maybe for the combat system, because that's not how the old one. I mean, the old one I don't remember it locking really, right? Did it lock? I don't remember ARK locking when you're doing combat. I thought you just had to aim at the thing and keep swinging.
That's kind of how it was, yeah.
So this actually has blocks, dodges, combos, staggers, special attacks with a skills-based action combat. So that's totally new. The old one isn't like that. So maybe the third person, that's to make that system work as well. Because I think if you're going to first person, it's going to keep breaking the experience that they're trying to provide.
It might not even break the experience. It might be unplayable. I mean, the locking system might not work in first person. Moving on from that,
swing around to block something, you can't see them. I mean, it would be a mess.
So their next bullet point is massive new alien environment, explore a mysterious, chaotic world where native flora and fauna, I guess, F-A-U-N.
Flora and fauna
are being overrun by invasive primitive creatures from the extinct Earth. Then they've got a new component-based item craft, and it says construct your weapons and tools from a range of distinct modules. So the previous ARK was resources. And I presume they haven't changed the word resources to modules, but they say to customize their look and functionality. Millions of possible combinations enable you to craft your own unique gear. So instead of just 3 stones and a couple pieces of wood to make a regular stone axe, you can potentially craft it in different ways to do different things with that. So that's pretty cool. They've got dynamic world events on here. Natural and unnatural occurrences are always happening across the game world, independent of your presence. So this is that 24-hour clock. And with that, Brian, ARK has always had the 24-hour clock system, right? Because even if you're not logged in, if nobody's logged into the server, your dinos and stuff are still eating, correct? And they're still drawing resources?
Well, it goes into like a stasis mode. It's kind of how they handle it. So that's more for resources, because we run 10 servers on one server, or 10 ARK instances on one server. And imagine if all of those dinosaurs were constantly moving. When nothing is happening, they must do something so that major events happen, and that's probably maybe what they're fixing in this one. But what they would do is when there's nobody in that zone, all that stuff goes into stasis, kind of stops moving. I don't know if they simulate maybe future movement when you come into the area of it to make it seem like it, but there's not things happening in the current ARK 1 when you're not in that zone.
So you're telling me if you're on a server, and let's say there's 2 people that play on the server, and you've got a trough that you filled with food for your various pets that you're toting around. If those 2 players are logged out, those dinosaurs are not consuming those resources, even if they're in stasis?
I think what it does is it calculates when it comes and brings them out of stasis, what happened. Because it can do that in seconds. It doesn't need to trickle it over the whole day. It will put them into stasis. When it pulls them out, all right, what did you do? Okay, this one died, and then you'll see the dinosaur, because you came in range, drop dead. Things like that.
Yeah.
Also, there may be calculations for dinosaurs as far as if they're not being fed, because they'll die when you're offline still, right? So there's some sort of timers that they have going in the background that this dinosaur, if he's not fed in this amount of time, there's ways they do it. They must do some sort of calculations. I'd have to look at their programming, and I haven't. I don't think that stuff's available in their modding kit to even see.
Moving on from that, this is interesting. Opposing PvE forces. So there's going to be hostile hunt and attack groups that will be riding their own tame creatures as they seek to drive the individuals.
This is human AI, right?
This is now obviously there's already PvE in the game, but it's typically PvE versus other dinosaurs and creatures. This sounds like it is. Oh, it doesn't sound like this is PvE versus other NPCs that are living in the game. which again goes back to this idea of this stasis. How is that all going to work with this world if you've now got more than just dinosaurs roaming around and you've got actual forces that could be attacking your base when you're gone? Not even other players, just full on AI NPCs doing it. So that's super cool that they've implemented that. After that, they've got advanced template building and sharing.
Excuse me,
sharing.
The thing is, because you can build a building, make a blueprint of it pretty much, and then share that blueprint so someone else can build something about the same. Is that what that's what I'm getting? Like for like big structures, or is it talking about performance? Like,
no, I think it says survivors can set up and save their own preferred building template, share them and place perspective template layouts in the world, and then build them out as a team. So this is falling into the forest, which has got that template-based building system, Brian. I'm going to build a house here. It builds the little mock ghost blueprint of what you're building, and you dump resources. ARK, as of right now, is you craft the resource, then place it. This is going to be, and it's always been a problem, right? Because it's like, does anybody have 10 more thatch to build this, or I need 25 more wood to build this? Well, now instead of them having to dump it onto the world and drop it, and then you pick it up and then craft it, they can now go and dump it directly into that. So that's a really cool mechanic
and this is what the forest did. And that's where we really saw this one of the first times was in the forest. And that was great because as a group, that's perfect for group play, because it's not like, okay, everybody dump everything into that, build this many pieces of this. You could pre-scheme out your build, run out there, drop it, and then just have people keep on feeding it as it sits there and builds itself. And one thing they put a note in here of, as far as the future performance thing, instanced rendering and network streaming enable much higher client and server performance for large player-built structures and a longer draw distance. So that's going to, we know in ARK with these giant bases, when you'd come into zones and you're just sitting there waiting for it to render. And that's how people were able to see what's inside of people's bases, because people would build such big bases, they'd come into the zone and then they have to wait for their internet connection to download the whole building as they come into space of it. So this is going to kind of cut out that, because people could see what was in your building just as it rendered. They'd see it render around all your possessions and know whether it was not worthy of going in there and stealing your stuff.
Yeah. Now this is a very old video. So keep this in mind. This is from 2014, but this is the forest's building system, where all of the things in white are ghosts of what you want to build, and you dump the resources in to build them over time. So that's kind of the whole, and you can see right here, and again, this is a very old video, but dumping those resources in to building that item, which again, as you mentioned, Brian, for group play is so much better. Because then, if it also comes down to one of the problems that we've seen as well in games like ARK, when you're playing with a group of 5 or 6 or more people, Brian is the one that's gotten all of the nodes to build the, Brian's the one that's got all the nodes to build the structure, and he's logged off, and we want to continue to build the house up or build the base up. We can't do that because maybe we've decided to go into the tools node or something like that. So this would allow you, Brian, or whoever you probably determine is your base builder, to craft everything and build the whole blueprint. And then over time, individuals can just dump their supplies onto it and it builds itself. So it's multifaceted in how it helps there.
And I think this is going to be a much better clan experience, because that's what this game they discovered is definitely a clan-based game. There are people that play solo, but what keeps people really playing is getting big groups together, and that's what really kept us playing it for so long when we did.
Can you explain a little bit about this sensory-based creature AI and what you know about that?
Yeah, so if you think of radar systems in like an airport, and you see the circle and you can see the ping, that's kind of how a lot of easy, simple AI works. Anything that comes into that circle gets detected. Now, they could put some rules on that, but what they're going to do here is treat it more like your real senses. So animals can now track by and hunt by sight, sound, and smell. So the main thing with sight, that just means that if there are obstacles between you and them, or maybe you're hiding in something that gives you cover, that won't trigger that animal. Unlike the old system where if you came in within the circle
So like
and maybe there wasn't
rock.
something, yeah, you can hide behind a rock now and it shouldn't chase you. Also, sound, same thing. Unreal Engine has really good systems for kind of dampening sound out from your player based on environment, based on various things. So
maybe you wear a pair of boots that are quiet boots that won't tip off and won't be as loud as regular boots when you're walking through brush or something, right?
Exactly. So they can have maybe clothes, because remember there was the gear that they have was kind of like the sniper clothes in ARK. You could have something like that maybe runs a little bit quieter, so you make less noise when you wear them. It gives you a closer distance that you can get to those animals before triggering them. And I think that this sight, sound, smell, I'm not sure how that's going to work. How do you program that into a video game? You've got to have something on you, perhaps rotting meat, something like that.
Absolutely.
That puts off a smell. I'm assuming that's how they're triggering it, based on what's in your inventory. What do you have that could put out a smell that will attract them to you as well? So maybe you're being silent, maybe you're not moving, and you have something in your bag that stinks. That thing may still smell you out and come and chase you, which I think is a more realistic and better mechanic.
Well, and it would add up.
It makes you think about those extra things.
The idea of putting a stack of meat on you to go out for, a couple of hours, maybe that's not as lucrative as it once was, because you're now going to be triggering any sort of carnivore that's running around the world and trying to eat you. The next thing on here is character progression. We're not going to go into that. That game's already got an incredible amount of character progression. And then the last one here, Brian, is full utilization of Unreal 5's technology. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, the foliage, the first point they bring out is it's reactive foliage. So when you walk by it, the grass moves. So as animals go through, you'll see the grass react to their movement. Perhaps you're chasing something and you're trying to figure out which ways it ran into the forest. Look at where the branches are still swinging back and forth, and you'll be like, oh, that's the way that thing ran. That's a pretty cool mechanic, especially if this is a hunting game. It sounds like they're trying to make it more serious as far as realistic. And I like that personally. Water flows downstream, so if you want to put something into the water, it'll float downstream. It goes around obstacles. So if you place something in the water that's an obstacle, the water will flow around it, which definitely doesn't happen right now. You can't even really, it's just water, right? Now, with this, it's going to be very reactive. We'll see at what point they turn it, because there's going to be a point where there's performance impacts. And I'm kind of curious at how, of course, ARK 1 started out like a performance monster, just horrible. And they've tuned it over so much time that now it works pretty well. It's a huge game, the original ARK. It's a huge game,
gigabytes.
but it's a huge amount of gigabytes. This one, let's just see where they go with it, because I can imagine with all these super high quality graphics and all this going on, it's going to be a giant game as well. The lighting systems, there's Unreal Engine 5 with nanite and everything else. It's just them taking full advantage of this and having those super realistic, high resolution, kind of what you've seen in all those videos showcasing Unreal Engine 5. It's going to be more realistic than games that we're used to. We're just starting to see Unreal Engine 5 games come out. Because, look at the pond. Remember when I would freak out about the swamps in the original ARK? I remember going there originally, sitting in the swamp and just being amazed, because you got to think of how many years ago this is now. The way video games look has changed a lot in the last 5 years. Yeah. In the last 5 years, the video games have changed quite a bit. And I just remember going into that scene and just being amazed on a multiplayer game how they pulled off the way the swamps looked, felt, and sounded. I think they're going to pull something off like this again with this, because just the way that the water will react, and seeing the creatures go into the water, and it just all that stuff will be really cool to see, because I don't think been my biggest complaint is I don't feel like we've been seeing games taking advantage of the technology, because I think that there's no games making things for the new versions of the consoles. I think that's been the big downside, is the technology is out there to do this. I just don't think they have been, because why would you make something for the new Xbox or the new PS? Who owns those and who's playing those? People don't seem to care, because most people still have their old consoles, or you're playing on other devices or a PC now. Things are moving away from that. So this is going to be one of the first one that's really taking advantage of that. That's what I'm looking forward to, especially with the modding, because it'll be pretty cool seeing what people make and make for it as well.
So that is ARK 2, out in 2023. We don't know when. We just know 2023. Presumably late, I would guess, since they didn't say spring or summer. I think it's a safe bet to say late 2023.
They're always late anyways.
They are always late anyways. I tell you what, Brian, I saw this. When did this come out? Monday or Sunday? I think is when this news. Sunday or Monday was when it first came out. The trailer and everything was released. I haven't been excited about a video game in a hot minute, and watching this trailer for ARK 2, just reminiscing a little bit about all of the fun we had in the original ARK. And I know a lot of people still playing ARK. I haven't played it in years. I'm beyond hyped for this game.
Yeah,
this looks sick.
And I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm just worried. I'm worried whether or not my computer will be able to play it by then.
Yeah,
with whatever performance thing this is going to be doing. I don't want to play on console, but I'm curious what will the graphics look like? Well, just like the original ARK, people were playing it on super low settings. It was like, how can you play on that? I don't want to be that guy.
So there's a couple of things. The first is, can this first, will this push people to get new GPUs? And I'll tell you what, these GPUs are now available. You can buy them. They're not as hard to get as they once were. I mean, they're on slick deals constantly. They're in stock everywhere. The question is, do you want to spend $600 on a GPU or whatever? The point is, I haven't done it, and I've had the availability to purchase one. I haven't, because I haven't had a game that was going to take advantage of it
that
yet.
Uses it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think you're starting to see these Unreal Engine games come out. You'll start to see people saying, "Wait, there's this version of the graphics, and then there's this version."
Yeah,
I want to get that one, because there is a big night and day difference when you look at the way that it's rendering and just not having to downscale everything. It's doing it all dynamically. Because I tried to run the editor. I was playing around in Unreal Engine 5 editor this past week and trying to just do that city sample that they did there's a small version of the city sample that they did for one of their demos here recently on Unreal Engine 5, and loading that, just trying to move around, because I hit play, played it in a new window, and it was just delayed. And so that's my concern, is it definitely is more resource intensive to run, to do that. And my video card, I have a 1080.
I have a 1070.
But it doesn't. I don't think it's running this new technology to do all this new stuff. I think I'm just right below it, because they said
you're not
GTX.
running RTX.
Yeah, so that's kind of a downer. But hey, it'll run on my new Xbox with RTX, so maybe I'll play it on there.
So yeah, let's look at that. You're talking about they haven't released system requirements on it yet. So that'll be interesting to see what they do. But Brian, I think it's only fair that we pay homage, as you mentioned, ARK trailer versus reality, to our old classic.
That's it. The rubber banding that we had. Yes, that's it.
The video cracks me up every time the guy's playing on like a Intel, like a 5th generation Intel laptop with Intel integrated HD graphics.
See, I just don't want to be that guy.
Garbage.
Trying to play ARK 2 and just lagging all over the place, with the resolution all the way down.
Yeah. Yeah. So ARK trailer, 1440p, 120 frames, reality 240p low, 11 frames a second, something like that. But in all seriousness, the reason, and I'm being dead serious, the reason I have not bought a new GPU yet is I can't justify spending $500-600 on a GPU right now when I don't have anything worth playing. If I want to play ARK 2, here's the thing. I'm in need for one anyway, and so are you. We both got 10 generations before RTX. So we're in need of a new GPU. It's just, it's time to upgrade. But I wasn't going to do it just for the hell of it because they're available. If I know that ARK 2 is going to require something that, which it's going to, something more powerful, well, I'm going to start looking now. And when I see one of these available at a price and what I want, I'll probably go ahead and buy it. Because prior to this, it was like, for what? Call of Duty is about the only thing I've been playing any little bit at all. I've been playing Halo 5. That runs totally fine. There's no reason to buy it. But now there might be. So this is good. This is great. I'm very much looking forward to this. Let's
move on to another game. Another one that is very tied to our roots. Let's talk about Bohemia Interactive's new Arma Reforger that they put out here recently.
Yeah.
This is a pre-release, kind of a tease to the new Arma that they're putting out. I think it's something that's giving modders and everybody a chance to start updating their mods, and it's a base small version of the game. But let's go ahead and play the trailer first, because the graphics to me shocked me compared to what I was expecting from Arma. Because we all know what Arma looks like. But you got to think, how old is that engine? This is where all the battle royales spawned. This is the early days. Is where Arma came in. So this is their new Reforger, and using their new engine, or a new engine. I think that's one that they've made, but it definitely is much more advanced than the old one. Let's go and check it out.
Peggy 16.
Peggy 16.
See, their lighting system is much more advanced than the original.
V souladu s požadavky Spojených států amerických i Sovětského svazu se všem občanům evropské národnosti přikazuje evakuovat Everon.
What do you think?
So, first of all, much closer to a more recent Call of Duty as far as graphics, right? I would say they brought it much closer to a modern, today's era game. Also, this Infusion engine, this is, I think, I don't know if we've seen anything else that uses this yet, but definitely a step up. It's still going to have all the strong modding, which I think is the most important part, because I think since Arma has become more and more outdated, we haven't seen a lot of those new game modes being created, just because it's so antiquated now. This is
why would you build a mod for an old game and an old engine that can't take advantage of new stuff? Yeah,
exactly. There's a limit to the map sizes, performance, just a lot of issues. So this is their first step towards Arma 4, which will have the fully moddable platform for the future that they're trying to build. They have a 51 square kilometer map. In the middle, it's a mid-Atlantic island that they're having in this initially, and I think a lot of it's just mainly for the modders. They're putting in conflict, some of the modes that they've used before. It's available on multi-platform, so this will be nice because and actually it's Xbox and PC for the first time in the Arma series. So it's going to be both
cool.
on those, not on PlayStation. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Their modded content now is available to all. It can be downloaded by console owners from the workshop, similar to what we were talking about earlier. They're doing that same system so that they can have mods that work across all platforms. They have their own mod shop that they're managing to do this. And it has a content creation sharing repository that's exclusive to this game. So if you make something, you can share it and do all that internally, and it goes to consoles and PC. This is multiplayer. So of course, that's for people that haven't played this. That's why people loved it so much, because you could heavily mod this and then also be multiplayer. So they were able to make the first battle royales, DayZ, things like this in here. And I'm really excited more to see what people create, because I think we've been so limited on something that makes it easy for a non-programmer, a person who's not a professional programmer, right, to sit there and make some of these things. It's short of going into Unreal Engine 5 and trying to make something yourself. This is a much easier way to do it. So I think it's pretty cool. They show their editor on here. It's got the workbench, so you can use it to create mods, create maps, things like that. They extended their original mod workshop and improved it some, and it looks good. Until it gets played, though, of course, they can make things look good in videos, but let's see how it actually performs. Is it going to be super slow? Is it going to be a reasonable speed? Is it going to be something where you can play 100 players on a map? There's a lot of things I think this is out, so people are playing it, but I'm more of wondering what's the final performance going to be. Are we going to be able to do 100 players, 200 player maps and not have it lag out?
Yeah, and that's, of course, the million-dollar question. I pulled up earlier the Steam reviews on it. It's been out about a month now. It's mixed right now, 60%. There's about 5,200 or so reviews on it, just over 5,200 reviews. 60% of them are positive. A lot of folks are saying just wait for Arma 4. So if you are an Arma fan, obviously this is probably right up your alley, but it's up. It's available, $29 for that. Read some of the reviews, I guess, before you go ahead and purchase it.
Yeah, and this is more. I mean, there are game modes in Arma, but most people play it for the mods.
Absolutely,
so you can play through the story once if you wanted to.
So, Brian, we haven't gotten into a lot this show because we've spent so much time on ARK. But you were right yet again about your thoughts with Game Pass and streaming. And I caught this story late last week, right after our show. I think it was either maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I was checking. I do show prep for my daily radio program, but I also have a couple of these like gaming and tech sites that I also just kind of flick through a couple of times a day, just kind of see what's going on. And to my surprise, well, it wasn't to my surprise, but to my amazement, Brian, I saw this headline over at PC Gamer. Xbox Game Pass is bringing console-less game streaming to Samsung smart TVs.
There it is. I mean, this is how they take over the console market, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to? How is Sony going to compete with this when this is the Netflix app being installed practically on every single TV and whatever screen you have? It's going to be the place that you go. Why would you subscribe to anything on Sony when they're nowhere near placing these type of things on small devices? There's absolutely no reason to go and get a console at this point if they can offer everything. Now, modding, that's one thing that we talked about. Will that be fully doable in this, done the same way? Maybe, maybe not. But for your average player, they don't care about all that stuff. They're playing more standard games.
So there's a couple of things to take away from this. First is that it is not every single Samsung smart TV. So to start off, and by the way, this launches at the end of the month, June 30th. So that will be. So it won't be the show next. It'll be the show that we do on July the 5th, or in and around July the 5th, that we get our first look at this, because it'll go live on June 30th. And it's going to be originally supported the Samsung Neo QLED TVs and the QLED 2022 Smart Monitor series from Samsung is what will start with this. So these are not your traditional Samsung TVs that everybody is buying. These are going to be more of your higher end televisions, which I have said, and from early on, that's how it has to be. This, even though you're just streaming, you still need the power on the device to do the decoding of that video. There is still resources that are, for example, take a really old computer and open up a YouTube video or open up a Netflix stream. It will chug along, and you might say, well, I'm not playing the video. Yeah, but you're decoding the video, and that it takes processing power to do. So this is not going to be available on every smart TV, obviously, at the start, but this seems to me, Brian, to be this is exactly what you and I have been talking about for the better part of probably close to 2 years now, that this is going to be available on these TVs. This is remarkable.
And it solves the RTX problem. You know, who has an RTX card? Are they going to care? Because if they're streaming it, they can stream it with RTX enabled, right? All they have to do is get the image to look how they want it to look in the end, send it to the TV, and it's done. So as long as the data centers are using ray tracing and all that, your TV should display the ray tracing. So I think this does solve a lot of problems for hardware, especially when you download, when people start learning, okay, I have the Game Pass. Oh, I have a computer. I'm going to download to my computer. And I'm going to play this game. Oh, you're right. You're going to play ARK 2 on your standard desktop computer that you purchased from Walmart. No, you're not. But you know what? You can stream, and you can get a picture that looks like a high-end gaming PC, and it'll probably feel pretty close to the same too. So I think that's going to make it to where they're going to be able to sell these new, because I was wondering, how in the world is Unreal Engine 5 going to release all these things and have it to where people can play them? Well, this is one way. People aren't playing them on local hardware. That way they don't have to go and buy a $500 or $600 video card just to play something that looks relatively new.
Yeah. So one of the questions, of course, is how is this going to go moving forward? So this is only on televisions that have Samsung's Game Hub, which apparently is all of their new 2022 smart TVs. Samsung has already said they do not plan on offering the Samsung Game Hub on older televisions. Now that might change once this gets out in the wild. They might bring it back to maybe the 2021 or 2020s, depending on the specs of it. But then the other question, of course, is what are you going to do? You're going to, grab your television remote and use the stupid little arrow keys to play video games? No, obviously. So part of this is also these televisions support Bluetooth devices. According to the Game Pass FAQ for this, all standard Bluetooth controllers as well as Bluetooth wireless gaming headsets are also going to be supported on the Gaming Hub. So not only will you be able to go ahead and connect your Xbox controller or some other sort of Bluetooth controller, but you'll also be able to connect a gaming headset via Bluetooth, play, chat, and do all of that stuff on it as well. This is incredible. And it really is.
And I think it'll also, one thing also as a person who consumes a lot of media, is it's going to allow really cool controllers. Because a lot of people don't realize that you have a very basic, usually controller that's running your TV. So that's why you have to aim it at the TV a lot of times when you're turning things on and off. Then you get ones like the Fire TV or the Roku where you can aim it almost any direction because it's using a radio signal that it's broadcasting out and it just picks it up. With Bluetooth, they'd be able to get a generic Bluetooth controller that could do all kinds of things with your computer or with your screen. So I think that kind of opens up a whole nother level of, it adds additional, I guess, selling features to the TV. Because Bluetooth, most TVs do not support Bluetooth.
Yeah, or if they support Bluetooth, they support like little
headphones. That's it.
Well, not even headphones. I'd say they support little things like this, which is these little this is a little Bluetooth. This is a little Bluetooth keyboard, controller. Yeah, that I use for my Raspberry Pi. Some of them might support something like this, but they definitely don't support controllers. Or if they did support controllers, it wouldn't matter because there's nothing to really do with them.
And you can do keyboard and mouse just as easily on there too.
Well, that's the question. Is I don't know. That's not listed. Presumably, I would assume
I can't imagine them not because Xbox Game Pass supports it. So I would think, but you never know.
Exactly. So now this brings forward at least the big question for me, Brian, which is, okay, so we're going to, we're going to support the streaming on the Samsung smart TVs, but the $1 million question is this a one-off deal with Samsung, or do we start seeing over the next 2 or 3 years new smart televisions that are coming out that support this out of the box? Is this just going to be relegated to your high-end Samsungs? Obviously, it's not going to be your high-end Sony televisions. I guarantee you that's not going to be supported. But your higher-end Samsungs, maybe your trying to think of some other Vizio. I guess
Vizio's a really good one. Vizio actually is a very high-quality one.
Yeah, but they also sell some cheap ones. LG,
some.
Panasonic, I think, still makes some smart TVs. So is it relegated to just those? And if so, right now I think a lot of folks, myself included, Brian, you go to Walmart and you get, you don't buy the cheapest television on the shelf, but you go and you buy, hey, I'm looking for a 70-inch television, and you buy the cheapest Vizio that you can at that size, or the cheapest TLC that you can at that size, because they're pretty much all the same. And unless you're a picture buff or you're super anal about that stuff, it really doesn't matter. With this now, maybe when you go to the store and you're saying, you know what, hey, I can get the, closeout special for $4.99, or I can buy this Samsung TV for $6.99 or $7.99, and it can do this stuff out of the box. This might bring back more of this could really hurt some of these bargain brand televisions for individuals, because
it's like getting a free Xbox included with your TV.
Like $500 or $600 purchase.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that you're going to start seeing people look and be like, oh, well, I want one that has this ability. But I'm wondering if they're kind of waiting, because they've talked about that puck that they were going to release, that streaming device. Do they want to release that first so that the people primarily pick up their hardware, or they want to roll it out to manufacturers and kind of pick up the slack with their device for people that don't have those TVs or don't want to get a new TV?
Yeah, because these things are crazy expensive. I just looked up one of the Samsung QLEDs that they've listed, and I don't know all of the models, but here's one of their 2022 Neo QLEDs. This is only 65-inch. It's $1,600. It's normally $2,000.
And that's definitely the high end, because if you look, like built-in 6-speaker object tracking sound,
but that's what these are, because these are the devices that have that. For example, Hisense, which you see on here, these Hisense televisions probably don't have the processing. They're still 4K. They still might support QLED, but they don't have or they might not necessarily have the power to run something like this, or they don't have a marketplace to do it. They don't support Bluetooth controllers to do it. There's a lot more to this than just being able to run the app. It's running the app well.
Putting the Netflix app on there.
Exactly.
It's not
correct.
the same thing.
It's not the same thing at all. It's much more advanced. Obviously, Samsung smart televisions are incredibly popular. They're kind of them and LG are kind of the creme de la creme of, if you're buying a super high-end smart TV or super high-end television, those are, and Sony too, those 3 brands are probably your top there. I can't wait to see, hopefully somebody at one of these gaming blogs or some guy on YouTube has got one of these TVs and can show off exactly how this thing works, because I'm super interested to see how it works.
Well, I want to cover a couple more Xbox things really quickly before because we're running out of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, they had their a show here in the past week, and one thing I was kind of surprised. Is it Hideo Kojima? He's a big PlayStation guy, making games for PlayStations. He came out at this new recent Xbox Game Studios presentation and said, "No more friendship ended with Sony. Now Microsoft is my best friend."
That's
and he's
the old
making all these things.
That's the old that's like that old Pakistani meme or whatever, where it's like friends with
hold on,
let me see if I can find. Yeah, here we go. Let's see. Friendship ended with Musar. Now Salman is my best friend.
Salman is my best friend.
Is my best friend. Yeah, that's the old. I'm not sure if it's Pakistani or whatever it is, but it's that meme. Friendship ended with Sony. Now Xbox is my best friend. Pretty good. I give him 10 points for reviving that old meme.
Yeah, and so this is the partnership that led to Death Stranding and everything being on Sony.
Sony. Yeah.
So I think people are in Metal Gear Solid, all of those. I think that people are starting to see that Sony does not have a path forward. They don't have a game plan that is going to win currently that people can see. If I were a person who made exclusive content for Sony, I'd be very nervous right now because I'm looking and seeing, there you go. I'm looking at seeing what they're coming out with on Xbox. You're going to lose out on a lot of sales. Just the amount of people that will be able to access and play your game. I just see it shrinking and shrinking with the PlayStation market. So
well, and
this is a new thing, big for those people that are really into that style of game, some of the games that he's made.
But I think it's bigger than that, and you just hit on it, Brian. We can sit here and say this. We as the consumers can argue and battle, and there's still plenty of folks that, and we've gotten some comments on YouTube, that, hey, PlayStation is still the place to be, and that's fine. But when you've got these, I tread on calling him a developer. He's more of an inspiration
right?
for these games, a visionary and inspiration. Yeah, he's not. I'm not sure that he's down in the trenches developing and writing every line of code for the game, but he's more of this visionary with these ideas of these games like Death Stranding, which had an incredible story. When these guys are saying, "Oh shit, Sony is a sinking ship that's just taking on water. Xbox is where it's at. I'm out." That is more damning than this is more damning than anything else that we've seen. Anything else that we've seen. The smart TVs, the Game Pass, this takes the cake for all of it, Brian. This is it right here.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the writing on the wall and seeing the big names that tied Sony. These were showcase things for Sony.
These are still their games that they're promoting on their Game Pass. What's their thing called? PlayStation
PS Now? Is that what it is?
Game Pass.
It is like PS Now, or is what I used to play it under. And then PS Plus, is that what it's still called?
Yeah, PlayStation Plus.
Or PS Plus.
This is one of their games that they've got as their big promotion, Death Stranding.
Yep. And the thing is, if they keep losing these, and they've given away all of their exclusives to PC now, I just don't see it. Now, let's kind of move on. Xbox Game Pass, they gave in their presentation, here's things coming to Xbox and PC over the next 12 months. And there's a graphic that they put there that shows a lot of these that are going to be releasing. So they showed in 2022 all the games that they're releasing, and you can see on the left half, it's got Fallout. So some of that I've not heard of. Valheim is on there, though. That's now going to be on console as well.
Grounded
and Sea of Thieves, Forza, all of these they're releasing. This content for. And then next year they're releasing some pretty big titles. All of the League of Legends, so Riot, all of their games are now going to be on Game Pass. So more and more are coming over.
Look at this ARK 2023 lineup: Diablo, Redfall, Starfield, Stalker,
Minecraft Legends for kids. There's a lot of Stalker
Resident
2,
Evil,
which is looking to be really good. Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned ARK 2.
I don't see how they're going to be able to compete.
They can't. Look at this list. This list is more than Sony's got on their Game Pass now.
This is just what they're adding.
Yeah.
In the next 12 months.
Hundreds of things that are already on there.
Yep. And so they've really pulled their game and just been stepping up at every moment. And like their flight simulator is amazing. If you've been tracking some of the stuff they've been doing with their new flight simulator, like they released that thing with the new Top Gun. For Halo. Halo's coming out with the new version here that you can see on that list. They've released one of the Halo ships that you can fly, and you can go up to space and do everything in Flight Simulator. They're doing some pretty cool stuff and doing some good cross-marketing. Anything that has anything to do with flying or can fly, they're putting the ships and everything else into their Flight Simulator. They're definitely milking their partnerships, which I think is smart.
It's very smart, and it almost makes me wonder, Brian, how did we this has obviously been unfolding behind the scenes for some period of time, and obviously it only bubbles up to the surface and we hear about it once things have been announced. How long has Sony known this stuff was going on? Were they as much in the dark as everybody else? And I can imagine sitting in a Sony boardroom it has got to be like the worst funeral you could ever imagine. I mean, let's be clear.
Yeah.
It's not like Sony's going anywhere. I mean, we got to set an expectation. Sony's not vanishing.
Yeah.
The PlayStation's not going away. No, nobody is saying that. But it's almost like they need to pivot to something else. Like, I don't know, and I don't know what it is, because they can't compete with this.
Yeah, spread it out.
Because there's literally nothing they can do.
Diablo 4 is being released day one on this. That's a huge game. Just, I've been looking forward to play that. There's a lot of games on here that people individually are like, oh, I've been waiting for that game. I've been waiting for that game, and you don't even have to pay any money. This justifies the Game Pass cost. This page,
absolutely,
for your 12-month subscription, that justifies your 12-month cost, aside from all the other features and the game streaming that they offer and everything else. It's just pretty incredible. I just think they need, the one thing that I brought up is they need to figure out their subscription plan, so that if you have 2 TVs and you're no longer playing on one single piece of hardware, how are they going to handle that? That's the last thing that for me is kind of a hanging out there and waiting.
Well, and the good news for that is simply just a timing and marketing thing. The technology is already there. They just need to figure out what they want to do with it. So that will be coming. And we read a rumor from late last year, I think just a couple of weeks ago, talking about how that was on its way forward, and it is.
Yeah. Well, and they've got Overwatch 2 coming out here by the end of the year, I think, or within the next year. They've got a lot of good stuff. So good for them, and hopefully they keep it up, because it's kind of like, if you look at what happened to Netflix, once people, the people creating content realized that that's kind of where everybody was going to be, you started seeing everything on Netflix. And I think that's kind of what we're getting to now, is these people know that if they want because the goal is to get your game in front of people, whether to sell DLC, because I mean, there's a reason to put your game on Game Pass. You sell the base game on Game Pass and then put any kind of DLCs or whatever you want after that as a purchase. Not everything has all the DLCs in the Game Pass. So I think that there's a lot of ways. And then when you take it off Game Pass, if people want to keep playing it, they can purchase it at a discount. I think they've got the system working really well. And I think that unless Sony starts to kind of copy this, I just think they're going to be always so far behind that, as you said, they need to figure out something else. What else are they going to offer? Whether it's a mobile, they've had the PSP, they've done mobile before. I know they could beat Nintendo when it comes to a mobile device. I mean, Nintendo's always come short and the Switch is the first thing that they've really done in a different way. I felt like you could take that away. Look at how they haven't been updating the Switch. People are buying the Steam version of it. If you came out with something that competed with that, but had the ability maybe to connect to Game Pass, open up. If you can't compete with them games, make a studio where you sell stuff and then make a device that can play any games. Something like that. Like, they got to figure out something. They do hardware. They could figure it out. I don't know. I haven't seen any hints of them coming out with something that tells me that they're doing it.
Agreed.
I haven't seen any whispers on the internet. So I don't know. I'm worried that Sony may be far behind, and with the economy and everything else going on, are they in a place where they can fight their way out of it? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't seem like it at the moment.
Well, and that's the $1 million question. What do they do to try? For example, you brought up Nintendo. Nintendo's not trying to compete with Xbox or PlayStation. They're on their own island, kind of doing their own things with their IPs, and their devices and consoles are incredibly popular. I think you have a couple of Switches there, Brian. I know I've got
2 of
one.
them, yeah.
They just kind of do their own thing. They let Sony and Microsoft duke it out, and they're like, hey, you want to play? Mario? Come over here. You want to play Zelda? Come over here. And it will be interesting to see if maybe that's what Sony does and kind of separates
create
themselves.
a device.
Well, I'm not even saying create a device, but
also can play their version. Like, that's what Nintendo does. If you want to play Mario, you're going to use that device, right?
Well, and I think that's the problem, is that and we talked about this, is that Sony does not have the IP. Now, they have the older IPs. You look at a lot of those old, like PlayStation 2 is arguably
which works on a small screen.
But I'm just talking about in general. The PlayStation 2. First of all, it was the best-selling console of all, second best. I think the Wii sold better, but best-selling console of all time, had an extensive game library. For nearly 10 years, games were coming out for this thing. Just an incredible console. They unbelievable console. PlayStation 2, arguably my favorite console, second favorite console, beside the Sega Dreamcast. So they've done it, but you look at all, like, Brian, I can go out to my living room and I've got all my PlayStation 2 games on a shelf. None of those games are out right now. They haven't done anything with Crash Bandicoot. Even some of these other games like Ratchet and Clank, I know they've tried to revitalize some of that series. I don't think it's gone over super well. I don't know. I can't. I assume maybe, Brian, that there's a lot of wheels turning behind the scenes, and Sony is ramping up, and then one day there'll be a big announcement of something big. But the longer that takes, and the more and more that Microsoft just keeps pounding it in. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen at all.
That's the thing. With all those old IPs, if they could just release something and that allows you to play all those old IPs, that would be a huge hit. Because they have so many games, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. I don't know what they could get, as far as PlayStation 3 playing on certain devices, but you could get it to where all that whole system is available to be able to play those games. That would be one way, but they've got to figure out something that makes them unique. And short of taking advantage of their old IPs, how are they going to do that? Because that's really all they got at this moment.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. All right, Brian, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, if you want to find me, at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, Truth Social, of course, Twitter, Boise Computer. If you want to find my blog, biteoftech.com. And then go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. Join our server on Discord if you want to come check out our ARK servers, submit some news that you think we should be covering. Also, if you want to watch the video forms, Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. Those are streaming live and also uploaded after the fact. And then if you want to listen to the show on your podcast forum, go ahead and go to the lower right-hand side, pick the device or platform that you want to use. Those are not available for the live show, but we upload those right after we're done. If you are following along with and listening after the fact, I encourage you to go to the particular episode and click the show notes for that, because we got links for videos and all the different articles that we refer to are all right in there and easy to view. And there's a player and audio player in there as well for video and audio. If you want to support us, infectionpodcast.com/support, or there's the support option up top on the website. And we appreciate all those that have been supporting us through all of these years.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know, with this new ARK out, Brian might have to do some server upgrades. And we do have some
that's been being discussed as possible ways to do that. So.
Okay, well, perfect. So we'll go.
Falcon, who's kind of our ARK manager at the moment.
Yeah, I was saying the conversations are happening now between me. I've been cut out of the conversation. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
I spoke with Falcon about this yesterday.
I'll tell you this. I'm just the button pusher here. Don't need to tell old Nick anything. He'll just show up every Tuesday and run his little show with his video and all that stuff. Nobody cares. Again, Brian, you mentioned the website. We showed the ARK and the Arma trailer. Go ahead and you could, if you're an audio listener, head on over to the show notes. Super cool trailers for both of those. Yep. Brian, as always, thank you very much, my friend. Greatly appreciated. And we will catch up with you next week.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right. If you want to check out some of my political antics and ongoings, you can head on over to the brand new and improved nickcraig.com, where you can check out the Wilmington's Morning News podcast each and every day. You can find show notes, links to all of my social media on there as well. You can go ahead and check that out. And again, if you missed any portion of this show, you can head on over to our website, check out our show notes at infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.